Hello, I'm Michael Swigert, host of Wayne County Connections. Thanks for watching today. We're glad to have you here to watch us promote Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play. We've got a great guest today. We have LuAnne Holeva from the Wayne County and Union County Solid Waste Management District and a whole bunch of other organizations that she works with, and she's the Conservation Education Coordinator. Today we're going to be talking about a variety of issues related to conservation and recycling and basic resource management here in Wayne County. And we would like to encourage you to pay attention, to learn some new things, and to do your part to promote Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play. So welcome, LuAnne, to the show.
Thank you.
LuAnne, it's great to have you with us today. As you know, Wayne County Connections is all about the connections, and so what we like to do to begin is to make the connection between you and our guests and let them know a little bit about you. So if you could just take a minute and tell us a little bit about who you are and what organization you represent and how you got there.
Okay. My name is LuAnne Holeva, and I work as the Wayne County Conservation Education Coordinator. I do work in Wayne County and Union County. I do work for the Wayne County Soil and Water Conservation District and the Union County Soil and Water Conservation District, the Wayne and Union Solid Waste Management District, and for the City of Richmond, the Richmond Sanitary District.
You wear a lot of hats.
Yes, I do.
Or one hat for a lot of different people.
You can look at it that way, too.
So what is it that you actually do? What is the Conservation Education Coordinator?
I try to do a lot of public outreach, public education, public participation, let people know about our natural resources, whether it's soil and water or the materials that we are recycling, we can turn in and turn into new materials.
Okay. And these different agencies, you named all the 4 different agencies. How are they similar and how are they different? I mean, it sounds like a lot of redundancy, but maybe it's not.
They all have a common goal of saving, preserving, and keeping our resources clean. The Union County and Union County Soil and Water and the Wayne County Soil and Water districts work on putting practices on the land to help keep the soil on the land and not eroding away, and also to keep the water quality clean. Various practices that put on the ground are grassed waterways, different structures to help keep the water slowed down so it's not doing that type of erosion, various kinds of plantings, cover crops and so forth. So they're more about conserving the soil and the water. The Solid Waste District, they are concerned with keeping materials out of landfill, getting them back into the stream to be used again, recycling the plastics into new plastic bottles, into carpets, reusing tires, hazardous materials, trying to get them properly disposed or taken someplace where they can be cleaned up and used again. With the Richmond Sanitary District, I do help the schools with some of the recycling programs and also with their stormwater education outreach. And part of that means getting people informed and getting them participating and understanding that when it rains or when the snow melts, that water that goes into the storm drains goes directly to the rivers and the streams. It doesn't go anywhere to be cleaned up. And so we've started a program with that with stenciling kits to help reach out to the public and let them know about that.
So they're all interrelated. As I'm listening to you talk, we're talking about a couple of agencies that work to maintain the environment, clean water and soil staying here so we can have good crop land and so forth. And then with solid waste management, trying again to keep the soil and the water clean, because we talk about, there's been a lot of public education over the last few decades about what's happened with the landfills and how the materials in the landfills have been leaching out into the soil and the water nearby. I remember reading a few years ago that back when cities were starting to develop landfills, one of the things they thought would be a good idea would be to have it near a water source, because that would help break down the materials and that would help in keeping the waste down. And then we learned, wait a minute, what we're doing is we're poisoning the water next to the city, and so it was not what we really wanted.
Right.
part of what we're doing now, I guess, is to kind of correct that past behavior, but also prevent it from getting worse in the future. Is that accurate?
Yes. Making people aware of what we did in the past is not necessarily always the best thing. We've looked at things closer and realizing that things should be done a little bit differently to help protect our resources and make them available for future uses.
Okay. Your position, you said, is basically one of public awareness. Mm-hmm. How do you help educate the public? What kind of activities do you actually do or coordinate that help people learn more about the various agencies that you represent?
I try to make sure we promote any of the activities or events that are coming up. For example, Wayne County Soil and Water is having their annual meeting where they will hold their election for supervisors, and they'll also review what they've done in the past year. They also have a conservation farming workshop that's coming up. I help promote that, put the information out there for farmers and landowners so they can get access to current speakers as well as people in the community that are offering various services for them. At the school level, I have Envirothon coming up here in March, which is a program for high school age students. They work on teams of 5 and they compete on 5 different natural resource areas, and they can move on to the state contest, and then after that they can move on to the North American contest. I work with the Family Earth Day Celebration Committee. We have that event coming up here April 16th on the IU East campus. We have fair displays. We have booths out there. If people ask us to come to certain events, we will have a booth or display there. In the spring, we have a fundraiser. We sell wildflowers. In the fall, we have a tree fundraiser, again, selling native trees. In the fall, we have a pond clinic, usually late summer, early fall, where people are interested in putting a pond in or maintaining the pond that they have can come out and learn more about it. Rural homeowners meetings, they talk about septic systems and things like that. Conservation Days is a program I put on for the 3rd and 4th grade students in the county, where they have the opportunity to come out and learn about farming, natural resources, safety, and other than that, it's a lot of grant writing, it's a lot of meetings, it's a lot of outreach, putting material out there on websites, newsletters, newspapers, radios, about anywhere we can get that information out there for the public.
Wow, it sounds like you have a lot going on. It sounds like spring is a really busy time of year for you as well. So you've got a lot of things that you're ramping up for right now. And you mentioned a couple of things in particular. You mentioned the Solid Waste Management District dinner, correct?
Soil and water.
Soil and water.
Yes.
Okay. And is that open to the public? Is that something that just anybody can attend?
Yeah, there is a fee of $10 that helps pay for the meal. And we'll be out there at the Coleman Center on February 7th. They can contact our office if they'd like to buy tickets.
And what is that contact information real quickly?
It's 966-0191 extension 3.
Okay.
Or they can talk with one of our board supervisors or one of the staff there at the office if they know them outside the office as well.
Okay.
And we'll have our election of supervisors. We'll have one appointed supervisor coming up and one position that will be elected. There's also our annual report, which will be in the newspaper here very soon, which has various stories and articles of things that we've done in the past year.
Okay. And then you mentioned rural homeowners, and you mentioned a couple of different school group activities. It sounds like with all of the events that you mentioned that you basically touch every demographic in Wayne County, from children to adult, farmers, business owners, homeowners, landowners, anybody that creates trash,
Exactly.
which I think is everyone. So you really meet with a lot of different groups. Do you ever find that a surprise when you meet with someone group that what they don't know about waste management in Wayne County?
Yeah, there's always a few people. The biggest thing with our waste management in Wayne County that a lot of people don't realize is that we are not funded on tax dollars.
Okay.
The solid waste management district runs on interest they earn on CDs, which right now is not much, and they get $1 per ton tipping fee out at the landfill when they bring materials in. Other than that, whatever grants I can write and bring in to help put those collection programs on that we had one just about every year, and they've always been successful, but again, they do cost money. And
Right.
right now, like I said, we're not operating on tax dollars. So
When you do the outreaches in the schools for the elementary school children, what kinds of information do you provide to them?
at the Conservation Days event, I provide maybe 15 speakers that they'll get to see. They learn about natural resources and farming. And I have a lot of sponsors that put in materials for that, people that donate materials. And the kids will take home a goodie bag of things that they've encountered during the day that they can go back and learn about again. For the individual classrooms, if a teacher wants someone to come in and do what we call the incredible journey, it's about the water cycle and how a water drop travels.
Okay.
It's a hands-on activity. The kids move around. They get to learn where water goes. It doesn't necessarily go in a circle, from the rain coming down to hitting the ground, to absorbing, and then evaporating back up in the clouds. That little drop of water can go many different places.
It's a little more complicated than that.
Yes.
Sometimes it comes through your pipes.
Yes. And at the high school, I have a teacher right now who borrows some of my kits that help show her students how groundwater can become contaminated, and where you think might be the actual source, because it's the most popular one that people think of. It's not actually the source of the contamination at all. It's one they never thought about. So.
And you mentioned earlier, we were talking about stormwater, and that the runoff from rain, snow, and so forth goes directly into the storm sewers, and then that goes without treatment directly into the water supply, into the streams and rivers.
Yes.
And so when people talk about, throwing out their trash out the window or spilling oil or gasoline on the ground, that doesn't necessarily get treated in advance of it being right into the streams, right into the main water supply.
Right. Most people are under the influence of out of sight, out of mind. So if it's not on my property anymore, then I don't have to worry about it. But those things, your leaking auto fluids, things you toss out the window, cigarette butts, pop cans, napkins, all that, they do end up going downhill with the water, washing downhill, and they end up in the water. If you think it goes in the drain, it doesn't get cleaned. A lot of people don't realize that. It just hits the storm sewer system. And the reason storm sewers were set up was to remove water from areas, so you wouldn't have flooding. And so it takes it right down to the river and dumps it. So whether it's you live immediately next to the Whitewater River, or you live on a smaller one like Lick Creek or Clear Creek, the water eventually runs down to those lower areas and carries those materials with it.
Okay. You've mentioned a lot of resources and a lot of different types of events and activities. You mentioned the website earlier. Where do people get resources or information about solid waste management, about soil and water conservation?
Most people today will go online and search, and they will come up with the Indiana solid waste districts. They'll let you know what counties are in what districts. They'll give you the contact information. Same thing with the soil and waters. We have a website. The state has a website that lists all the different districts and the contact information is. Here in Wayne County, they can come out to the USDA Service Center. That's where our soil and water district is located. My office is back there.
Okay.
And that's probably one of the main places they can come for brochures, information, talk to people about different practices and so forth.
And the office is located?
On South Round Barn Road, which is south of US 40. It's 823 South Round Barn Road, and we're in the USDA Service Center, which, if you drive by, it says Midway Complex on the front. So.
All right. And you also have a website?
Yes. It's waste-not.org.
Okay.
www, gotta make sure you put that in front of it. That's the main one I use for posting all my information. I also have one through the city on stormwater with a much longer address.
But we can get links there, and we'll have links from our website, waynet.org/cc, for additional information. I noticed when I was browsing your website that you had a lot of links. There wasn't a lot of pages and pages of content, but there were links to other pages, and you had links to national websites or other conservation websites and soil and wastewater management. So it's really kind of your resource to resources
Yes.
in some ways for people.
Yes.
Great. We have kind of talked around activities involved with conservation, but one of the ones that people probably are most familiar with but not intimately aware of or knowledgeable about is recycling. Recycling has gained popularity, and we've got, especially in the city, we've got some recycling programs, the Ricky Raccoon rollers and so forth, and we've seen some recycling sites up in the county, but maybe people aren't aware of how big recycling is in Wayne County. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Recycling in Wayne County is becoming very, very big, very active. You do have the program here in the city with the Ritchie Recycling Raccoon, and folks have the blue rollers that they can put their materials into, and they have a list of what is allowed in there and what is not. Out in the county, through the solid waste district, there's 6 drop-off locations now, and they take several more types of materials. And it varies from county to county and district to district. It depends upon what sort of places they have to store the materials, what sort of market there is for those materials, and all that. So in Wayne County, we do take glass, bottles, and jars. They do not take windows or frames and glass or mirrors, just the bottles and jars. They take steel, aluminum, most metals. They don't take mercury. That's a hazardous waste that's dealt with separately. They take plastics, numbers 1 through 7. And when I say that, if you look on the container, there's a triangle, usually on the bottom along the side. There's a number inside of it. The most popular plastics are 1 and 2 that the market wants to buy. But at the county drop-offs, you can take 1 through 7 out there, and depending upon if the market is there for plastic number 5 or number 6, the county has through the county contract, we work with Best Way, and they take the materials to East Central up in Muncie. They'll deal with those. And the paper products, they'll take cardboard, paperboard, which is like your cereal boxes and macaroni and cheese boxes, newspapers, magazines, catalogs, office paper. And the nice thing about the county drop-offs, you don't have to separate the materials. They all go into the same bin, but they do ask that you put your paper materials in a plastic bag or something so they don't get wet, because they are usually only emptied once or twice a week.
Right. And once those paper get wet, it's much harder to deal with them, and they're heavier.
Yes, much heavier.
Yeah. It's a little bit more complicated. So where are the recycling areas in drop-off locations in Wayne County? Okay,
we do have 6. There's one in Hagerstown at the transfer station. They're off Highway 1. There's one in Cambridge City near Cutshaw Market. The backside of the parking lot, there's a little road that goes back near the park. There's bins there. There are bins in Milton, there by the fire station. There's bins in Dublin, there by the flashing lights on the southwest corner. There are bins now in Centerville, where Water Street meets North McMinn Road. And then there are bins in Fountain City behind the fire station.
So there's a recycling drop-off location near you if you're watching our program right now.
Yes.
Okay. And we encourage you to take advantage of those. One of the primary purposes of recycling, getting back to what we discussed earlier, is to reduce the amount of material that goes into landfills. But even with recycling, there's still some stuff that's going to be thrown in the trash. What are some of the materials, though, that people probably shouldn't be putting in the trash that may be hazardous materials? You mentioned mercury earlier, but there are other things that need special handling when we do them. You just don't just put them in a dumpster somewhere.
Right. A lot of things that get thrown away are liquid, and liquids, as you mentioned, can leach out. I mean, they can leak out of what the container that they're in. In the landfills now, they all have a special liner in them, but in the old landfills where they had clay, sometimes things would leach out or leak out and get into the water system. So things like paint, I get a lot of calls for paint. The best thing to do with paint is to dry it up. I mean, if you need to paint the underside of some steps, a doghouse, you have a community group that needs to make stages or props, they may use that paint. Or you can put kitty litter in it and dry it up. Once that paint is dry, make sure you leave the lid off, and you can put that in with your trash. And once the people picking up the trash see it's dry, that's fine. It's when it's in its liquid form that it's not a very good thing. Things like oil, automotive fluids, things like that. There are places they can be taken for recycling. A lot of furnaces and shops will burn used automotive oil as a heat source. Tires, there are places you can take them back. Of course, there's always a fee. You can't get a lot of things for free anymore.
Right.
But it is worth, taking them and properly making sure they're taken care of and not left along the roads where they can collect water and become mosquito havens during the summer. Items that contain Freon, your air conditioners, your refrigerators, again, there are places here in the community where you could take those for disposal and have that Freon properly recaptured and reused again or properly disposed of. But again, there's a fee that you will have to pay to have that done.
And how would people learn more about various agencies, organizations, or businesses that accept materials for recycling?
On our webpage, I do have a brochure, a booklet that is posted there. It hasn't been updated since probably 2007, but it does list places in the community that will take those types of materials. Your lithium and cadmium type batteries, places like Radio Shack and Lowe's will take those. Your Freon type items, there's a few different refrigeration companies in town that will take them. Some of your bigger white goods, your washers and dryers and things like that, a lot of metal in them. Check with recycling facilities for that, the larger ones.
Okay. So it sounds like after the spring rush and you get through some of the things, as you kind of slow down into the fair season, you're going to be working on updating your brochure on recycling locations.
I hope to. It's been on my list for a couple years now to get done. And I keep notes on things that I need to change, but I haven't done a full update in a while. So.
Yeah, I imagine it's, I looked at that brochure, it's quite intensive, so I can see how keeping up to date it requires some time.
Yes, it has grown from a piece of paper tri-folded into like 20-some pages.
Yeah.
So.
Which, on the other hand, is good information because it means that there are many more businesses or organizations that are involved in the recycling project. There are more people that are being involved in maintaining our environment or improving our environment. So that's a good thing too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned big appliances, and some of our viewers may be aware, may have caught the news item right at the beginning of the year about a new Indiana law that went into effect about disposal of computer parts.
Yes.
As computers have become more used in homes and we're going through recycling, people replacing them and moving into newer systems. The question is, what do I do with the old ones? And Indiana State legislators have addressed that as it relates to landfills and came up with a new law. What can you tell us about that, and how can we learn more?
Back in 2009, they started with the manufacturers of computer-type materials, electronics, and they have to recycle a certain percentage of what they produce. Obviously, they can't take everything back that they sell because people will take them to their local places for recycling and so forth. So that's where it started. And then this past year, the beginning of the year, they have changed it to households, small businesses, and schools can no longer set those electronics out with their regular trash. They need to contact their solid waste district or here in the city, the sanitary district, to find out what they can do with those materials. Some places will take them back because they want to take those materials out of them and reuse them. There are valuable things in them. There's gold in there, but there's also hazardous things like lead and mercury. So they want to make sure those things are properly disposed of, properly recaptured, and don't get out into the environment.
Right. I know that I've taken a few apart myself and taken the cases to the recycling center, but I'm always concerned about what do I do with the circuit boards, what do I do with the power supply units, because those aren't recyclable. So state law is addressing that, and basically I need to contact you and find out where to take my leftover pieces.
We're fortunate in the fall. Earlham usually does an electronics collection, computer collection, and they work with Workforce Incorporated, and they collect those materials. There's a small fee because they do have to transfer that material over to Indianapolis, and that helps people provides jobs for people to get back on their feet. And so it is a good thing, and those materials are properly being recycled.
As we focus on conservation here, and we come to the close of our program, want to talk again about how people can learn more about conservation in our area and about stormwater management and so forth. What is, I guess, one thing that you would tell our viewers if there's one thing you can take away from today's program, what would that be?
That everything you do does have an impact on our environment. Whether it's something simple like, washing your hands at the sink or flushing the toilet or taking your trash out, putting salt down on your driveway, fertilizing your lawn. Things like that are impacting the environment, and you may think out of sight, out of mind, but that is still there. It hasn't just magically disappeared. So we have to take care of what we have now and protect what we have now, so it is available there for future generations to use.
And to get additional information, let's review your contact information. LuAnne, they can get in touch with you by phone at?
966-0191 extension 3.
Okay. Go ahead.
I also have a voicemail at 1-800-440-7536, extension 5060. That's a place they can leave a message. I don't have direct contact as far as it ringing into my office from there, but they can leave a message after hours if they want me to address something that they have a concern about.
Okay. And your website is?
www.waste-not.org.
Okay. And your offices are located at?
823 South Round Barn Road, just south of US 40.
Okay. So there are a lot of ways that people can get in touch with you, and there are a lot of resources that are available to our viewers about conservation and solid waste management here in Wayne County.
Yes.
All right. LuAnne, I really appreciate you being on our show today and all the information that you've given us. It's been a really enlightening and a really entertaining show. I hope that you, as our viewers, have enjoyed watching today as well. I want to encourage you to do what you can to promote Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play, and get in touch with LuAnne about conservation and solid waste management and recycling through either the website and the contact information that she listed, or you can also get to her through our website at waynenet.org/cc. It's been great having you on the show today and sharing this information with you. I want to encourage you to do your part to promote Wayne County as a great place to work, live, and play. We want to thank our producer, Jane Holman, Executive Director at WayneNet, the County Commissioners, and WGTV Channel 11 for hosting our show. See you next month.